What's growing on, gardeners? It's Sunday, November 26th, and it's like winter roared in like a lion here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. We are having our coldest air of the year moving in next week, and everything just feels like the cold season. However, I am not stopping. This is peak garden planting time, and this year I'm overhauling my entire yard. I am making some of the biggest changes that I've ever made in my yard and garden, and I want to show you everything I have planned and take you along for the ride.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon store and Spreadshop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.
A lot of gardeners refer to this time of year as the off-season in gardening because it's too cold for most things to grow, and a lot of our fruit trees and other vegetation are dormant and sleeping for the year. However, there is no real off-season in gardening. Looking at it that way is a tremendous mistake. You have to look at gardening like you look at a professional sport. Yes, there is a time of year where you may not be playing the game, but it is not an off-season. When the official season ends, you may want to take a break for a couple of weeks and just rest your mind and body, take a vacation, get out of Dodge, but then you need to get back and start hitting the gym and staying in shape for the upcoming season. If you treat gardening like the off-season, you're going to do about as well as if you're a team player in a professional sport and you look at the time outside of the actual athletic season as an off-season, and then you wait until a few weeks before the new season starts up to hit the gym and get back into shape. You're not going to do really well if that is your attitude. So for me, this time of year is the key planning time. This is when I make all of my plans, my purchases, and design everything for the following season. And that is how you really become a champion when it comes to gardening. So I'm going to take you around my yard and garden and show you everything that I'm going to do this year, because now that I purchased a property out in Florida that I want my future homestead to be, with a 10-year or so mindset to get there, I really want to take this property and complete my vision. So because of that, I ordered a ton of different fruit trees. I'm going to remove some of the existing things that I have growing that just hasn't done well over the years, and I'm going to replace them with new things. So I want to show you everything I'm going to do and maybe inspire you to plant certain things around your yard. And as a point of reference, I'm on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, recently upgraded Zone 8B in the new USDA hardiness zone map. So I'm going to show you everything that I've ordered, everything I still plan on ordering, and how everything's going to be laid out for the upcoming growing season. So I'm going to start off on the east side of my house, and this is where I have my blueberries and my feijoa, my pineapple guava. Nothing here is changing. Everything here has performed exactly as designed. I'm in the process of mulching all of this with pine bark nuggets because blueberries need acidic soil. So overall, I'm really happy with how this plan has turned out to be. I also have a new pineapple guava that I put in here last year that is just starting to find its legs, and the roots are starting to put down, so I expect big growth from that this year. Now let's work our way into my garden and show you my edible landscaping food forest setup. Now, one of the big changes that I'm making this year is to my bananas. I currently have 7 banana mats that I'm growing, and it's just too much. I've been successful fruiting bananas here in Zone 8, but it's generally too cold, so they're not really being great in terms of productivity, and it's kind of taking up more space than I want. And I'm also tired of having to maintain them throughout the winter by using this wheat straw to insulate them. So I have 3 dwarf Namwa variety bananas that are growing around my yard. None of them have ever fruited for me. I think it's too cold here for them. So I'm removing 2 of them, and I am replacing them with a couple of different things. So this is one dwarf Namwa variety that I am removing. I'm going to replace it with a Chilean guava plant. Now, I tried planting one in a sunnier spot than this over the summer, but it did not take and it died. It couldn't take the heat. So this year I ordered a new one, and I'm going to put it in this location where my old dwarf Namwa banana plant was. And my thought on this is that this is a more protected location. This is the east side of my yard, so this should get morning sun, and then it should get shaded out by the fence and the fig trees and the bananas around it in the afternoon. So I think this plant is better adapted to higher latitudes than mine, so I want to give it a more protected spot. My fig trees, my original fig trees that I planted in ground here, no big changes. They have performed very well for the most part, so nothing will be changed when it comes to my fig trees on this side of my yard. Then over here you have my astringent Giambo persimmon. This has been one of the best fruit trees in my entire yard. Great performer, fantastic fruit. Because of that, I'm going to plant more Asian persimmons this year in my garden. And I'm going to keep this banana mat because this has been a very healthy and successful grower for me. At the very least, it looks incredible. You can see how dense and thick all of those bananas are, so that's a keeper. Then over here you have my second wave of fig trees that I planted. Overall, these are doing fairly well. Not as good as my original planting. These varieties just, for the most part, aren't as well adapted, I think. But no big complaints, except for it looks like this year I lost my Del San Juan Gran fig tree to the ambrosia beetle, unfortunately. It had some boreholes in it. It tried coming back, but it died. So I guess it got infected by that fungus. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to replace it with another of the same variety or just let it go and plant another fig tree in its location, because I have so many other fig trees and I don't really need more varieties. So I'll probably take one of my potted fig trees that I feel would be a good performer in ground and place it where the Del San Juan Gran was. I'll dig that up next year. Then over here you have my grapevine, my old TV Munson variety, Mrs. Munson. Fantastic performer, wonderful flavor, but it is a seeded variety. So I'm taking a chance on a Mars seedless grape right here, which is not Pierce's disease resistance, but it's supposed to be the most disease resistant of the popular retail available seedless grapes. So I'll give it a try and see how many years I can get out of it. And then next to this is an olive tree. This is an Arbosana olive tree. I planted this in a late summer, early fall. I haven't really talked much about this, but I'll discuss this in greater detail when it starts growing next year. Then over here you're going to see where I'm expanding my food forest the most. I have a lot of different fruit trees on order. So I'm going to show you what the layout is going to be. I'm not going to get into the specific varieties. I'm just going to tell you what the species are, because this is a work in progress, and when I eventually get everything in the spring, I will then discuss what the different varieties are going to be. So next to my olive tree right here, I've decided I'm going to plant a nut tree. I'm going to plant a self-fertile almond tree, because almond trees are fairly small in size and you can keep them pruned to a very manageable height for backyard gardens. And because I will be planting a self-fertile variety, I don't have to plant two companion trees like you'd have to do with a pecan or a filbert or something like that. Then next to that, I'm going to plant a persimmon tree. Now, I'm actually planting two persimmons this year because I'm going to plant two pollination variant types where they have male flowers and can pollinize each other. However, I'm placing the one persimmon here, and I'm going to place a jujube tree in between the two persimmons, kind of as a break, because I don't want them to pollinate each other very well. I want to be able to control the pollination manually. So again, we're going to have a persimmon, a jujube, and another Asian persimmon. And the reason why I'm doing this is when the persimmons pollinize each other, the fruit changes. It becomes full of seed and it will have a brown interior. I've seen some people say that the pollination increases the flavor and makes them taste better. I've had other people say that it has no difference on the flavor, but pollination will make them full of seeds. So what I want to do is I want to manually control the pollination so they don't over-pollinate, because I may decide I like them better seedless and not pollinated. So that's why I want a little tree that is a breaker buffer between the two. Then over here, I'm going to add two trees that I'm really excited about. I decided that I'm going to add a pluary and a pluot. Now these are both interspecific hybrids. They're fairly new. A pluary is a complex hybrid between, I think, a plum and a cherry. And then a pluot is a combination between, I think, a plum and an apricot. Now, the challenge with growing them is they're difficult to pollinate. So this pluot right here, I spent the money on one of those multi-grafted trees that have 4 different varieties in one, so the tree will be able to pollinate itself. And the good news is a few of those varieties also can pollinate a pluary, so I'm not going to have to plant 2 different pluaries and 2 different pluot trees. It cost me a little bit more money to get the multi-grafted tree, but it is a much better deal than buying 3 trees in order for everything to pollinate each other. Then in the back corner, I have a very exciting announcement. The back corner here is underneath this understory in my yard, and this is where I have my backyard citrus planted because I feel it is a very frost protected location. I noticed that when my yard gets hit by frost, it tends not to frost back in this understory. So because it's a protected microclimate, I'm going to take the risk, and I think I'm going to plant another very cold hardy Mexican avocado back here. And I have another one of these 60-gallon water drums that I've been holding on to for a while. I'm going to plant it in between 2 water barrels, and then I'm just going to cover it with a plant jacket. When it starts getting cold, let it sit under the plant jacket for, I don't know, a month or 2 or whatever our cold season is going to be. And I'm going to see how it goes. I haven't ordered one yet. I'm still batting around which variety I'm going to try. But hey, I'm going to take the plunge and see how it does. And that, for the most part, is going to complete the planting of most of the things in my yard and garden. From there, I will just be waiting for my trees to hit maturity, like my citrus trees that are back here. Now, I still will have a small space here that I'll be able to fit something in. I'm not sure what I'm going to want to plant there. Maybe some kind of shrub or some kind of herb. I don't really know. But this is where I just put my new dwarf bonanza peach tree that was just planted a couple of months ago. My pawpaw trees have finally put in a decent amount of growth, so I'm hoping that maybe I'll get fruit off of them for the first time. Here is where I originally tried planting the Chilean guava, but it just got smoked by our summer. It couldn't hold on, unfortunately. It was doing great in a pot, but when it went into ground, it got shocked to death. Then I have my non-astringent persimmon tree. This is my Asian pear that I grafted myself, 3 different varieties onto, on 3 different espalier tiers. And I'm happy to say it's been very successful. It actually formed its first ever fruit. I have a little Asian pear that formed right there. So hopefully next year I'll get more flowering and budding and I'll actually get a harvest. This is a peach tree that just didn't work out for me. I'm going to have to rip this out and replace it with another one in the spring. Then I have my apple trees. So that will, for the most part, complete the edible landscaping around the perimeter of my yard. So just to give you kind of a sweeping panning motion, sorry for the shaky camera, that will complete a perimeter sweep of my entire yard. One of the other changes I'm going to make is I'm going to rip out this dwarf Namwa banana that I've had growing in my front yard for 3 or 4 years now. It is beautiful foliage, but it won't fruit for me. I just think my zone is too cold. So I'm going to rip this out and I'm going to replace it with a bay tree or a bay laurel tree. That is where you get the bay leaf from that you use to spice dishes. I go through a lot of bay leaf, so I think it would make a lot of sense for me to have a tree growing in my yard. Here's the bay laurel tree that I will be planting in my front yard. I've had this for several months and I got it as this little tiny twig, and it's put on a lot of growth. It's probably tripled in size, so it's going to sit in my sunroom over winter, and I think once March or April rolls around and the frost and freezes stop, this will be large enough that I will be able to plant it out in the front yard where that dwarf Namwa banana currently resides. Now, it's going to be a lot of work for me to get all of these trees in the ground come the spring, plus plant out my entire vegetable garden, but I need to do it and stop dragging my feet because I want to maximize the square footage of my yard and get these trees to maturity as quickly as possible. Because once your trees start hitting years 3, 4, and 5, you can really start to expect a great harvest. Let me show you what I'm talking about. The trees up against the south wall of my house are some of the first fruit trees that I planted when I moved into this property 5 years ago. This Owari Satsuma went in first, so it's just hit the 5-year mark, and you can see what the 5th year of harvests look like. It is just absolutely loaded. Crazy under there. Last year it gave me at least 100 pounds of oranges, and this year is going to be no different. Then we have my avocado tree. This is my Lila avocado, which has been a great success here in North Carolina. Every year the tree is beautiful, it fruits for me, but this year it finally held a fruit to maturity and it was absolutely delicious. So I think I can finally expect some harvest off of this tree. Then we have my Meyer lemon going on its 3rd year. This was just a little rooted cutting that I planted that I bought for 15 bucks from Brightleaf. And man, just look at this thing. Loaded up with incredible amounts of fruit. And they are some of the most delicious lemons you will ever have because they have Satsuma in their lineage. They are so juicy and so much sweeter, yet they still have that wonderful lemon flavor. You can substitute them for a regular grocery store lemon. You won't know the difference except they are lower in acid, and you get 2 or 3 lemons worth of juice in 1 lemon. It's been quite a while since I've taken you for a walking tour of my yard and showing you everything I have growing on, so I wanted to take this opportunity and give you the little shaky cam tour and show you everything that I plan on doing this upcoming growing season. Fruit tree prices have gone up quite a bit this year over last year. Some have gone up as much as 50 to 100%. So I'm taking this time and doubling down on my vision and trying to get everything that I want in the ground as quickly as possible with an intelligent layout that maximizes the space of my yard and garden so I can get as much food production as quickly as possible while still leaving a nice big wide open area in my yard for Dale to run around, and also keep the yard mostly open and very attractive in terms of resale value for when the eventual day comes where I may want to sell this house. Again, it may not be for another 7 to 10 years or so, but it will eventually be one day in the future. So that's why I've done my best to try and lay everything out as efficiently as possible, because I don't intend for this to be the last place I ever live, God willing. So hopefully this video will motivate you to wake up if you're in an off-season type slumber and get you looking at your yard and garden and how you want to plant it out for the next season. Because here's the deal, a lot of the online nurseries are in the midst of updating their stock, and they have maximum stock right now. So if you drag your feet and wait for the other side of the holidays to order the things you want, a lot of the varieties that you want may be out of stock. So try looking right now while stock is maximum so you get everything that you want and you get the overall best selection for the next year. And again, once the spring comes and I start getting my order of fruit trees, I'll start discussing the exact varieties and why I selected them for my unique location. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring that notification bell so you're notified when I release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in real life in my yard and garden, I'll link to them all down in the video description in my Amazon storefront link. So expand the video description and click on the Amazon link and you'll see everything I use in real life. And while you're there, check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. Where are we right now? We are not in the rainforest of Costa Rica. We're taking Dale for a walk 5 minutes from the house. This is how lush and green the understories of our forest here is because we get so much rain. And Dale is just loving all of the sniffs. He is going crazy. He's in heaven. It's his favorite place to be.